What's wrong with you people?
Welcome to Not Another Baptist Podcast. My name is Matt Hensley, the pastor of Plymouth Park Baptist Church in Irving, Texas, and I am joined by Kyle Bierman from a time capsule in, as I recall, Kermit, Texas. Is that right? Where are you at, man?
That is right. That is right. Yeah, I am. As we're recording this, I'm wrapping up a revival, preaching a revival here in First Baptist Church in Kermit, Texas, where many, many years ago I was the youth pastor here.
Nice.
And so yeah, then as you mentioned, it's a time capsule. I'm sitting at my desk that I had when I was a youth pastor, in the same chair, in the same office, staring at a few books on the shelf that I put there 15, 16 years ago. So it's been kind of a surreal week here, man.
So I didn't peg you as much of a purpose-driven youth ministry guy, but how did that age for them?
Actually that book is probably still on my shelf at my house right now.
Oh, so I'm curious, what books did you leave? Just name like two of them.
Let's see. There's a book called Losers Club that Zondervan put out that was kind of tracing some characters in the Old Testament. Man, what else is up there that I had? There's like there's an old volunteer book called Do They Run When They See You Coming? That was mine that is left there. And then here's what's crazy, like some camp promo DVDs. I found one from 2009 that's still on the shelf, as well as the Interlink music video DVDs, several of those from 15 years ago or so.
Yeah. I'm impressed. One, that you left stuff, because I know plenty that, man, they wipe that place out. Like everything is gone when they leave.
Well, let me tell you what else I found. So I went around. They have an old church library that hasn't been touched in years. Okay, and I was wandering around there and came across the Broadman Bible commentary set. And Matt, they had the first volume, which is Genesis, unrevised, the original of the Broadman Bible, which set off a whole firestorm and really was one of the parts that led to the conservative resurgence. Pretty rare. You can find them, but you're going to pay a pretty penny for them. And sure enough, they had the original Broadman Bible commentary in Genesis, the heretical one, sitting on the shelf. So I told the pastor, I took it to him and I said, you might want to put this like back in your office. You might not just want to leave that out in the church library there.
Well, let me tell you, that's going on in Kermit for you. Let me tell you what I came to church on Sunday and found. So there has been a recurring bit of drama here at Plymouth Park Baptist Church regarding the cleaning of some pews. Now, my job growing up actually was that. Like every Sunday, I was paid a few bucks to clean up the pews, take all of the bulletins out, throw them away, pick up the Lord's Supper cups, all of that kind of stuff, straighten up the Bibles and the hymnals and all of that. Now, it's kind of a little bit of a flashback, because on Wednesday nights, usually when I was free, I would walk through the pews and just pick up the bulletins and straighten up the Bibles and all of that kind of stuff. And man, I'm like finding all these bulletins for like a couple of weeks. And so I asked Micah, our executive pastor, I said, "Do we have anybody cleaning up here?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, they're not cleaning in the pews." He said, "They're supposed to be." I said, "Bro, there's like food in here." And when did they do it? And so we're kind of going that. And so I said, "Hey, just maybe reach out to them, let them know, like, can you please, kind of do a little better, do better," as Cameron Crowe would say, do better.
Do better.
And so anyway, not trying to be mean about it, all that kind of stuff, because I don't care. I'll go pick it up. But I'm like, we're paying for this, so let's clean it up, and we contract that out. So I'm not throwing anybody under the bus or whatever. But all of that said, I guess that conversation took place. And Sunday I came and they cleaned the pews amazingly. And by amazing, I mean there was nothing in them. The Bibles were there, but no tithe envelope,
Oh no.
No response cards. No, we want you here, like welcome, guest visitor information card. No pens, no nothing. Everything was gone.
Oh
And
no.
I was kind of impressed. I mean, it's
At
clean.
least they didn't throw the Bibles away. That would have been a whole different
Oh, that would have been
conversation.
a very difficult conversation. But anyway, I'm over here like, well, so I had to go in and kind of tweak my invitation where, I talk about, and if you would like to, there's a response card where you can share with us, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, well, at least my sermon got shorter, so nobody was upset about that. But speaking of pain point for me at Plymouth Park on Sunday when I showed up and there was no welcome card for greeters and no tithe cards, if at least I can blame, if the giving was down on Sunday, I can blame it on something. But anyway, pain points of pastoring, nicely alliterated by Mark Dance, is the latest article on LifeWayResearch.com, or actually it's research.lifeway.com. Anyway, it's the 5 pain points of pastoring. And I thought we would talk about this today because we've been pastors for a while. We've had those difficult days, the dog days of summer, and times where it feels like you can't win, like anything you try to do to, clean up the pews, make things look nice, just backfires on you on Sunday. But anyway, here are the 5 pain points every pastor will experience, and we'll talk about them. Number 1, it's conflict. Number 2, it's abandonment. Number 3, it's attendance. Number 4, it's family. And number 5, our finances. Now, so Kyle, number 1, conflict. I know we're Southern Baptists, so we're never known for conflict.
Yeah,
but
definitely haven't been books written just specifically about our conflicts or whatever.
Oh, well, maybe that is not the case. Anyway, let's talk about that. So I like that Dan said here, it was a shock to my system that everyone did not coalesce around the Great Commission every week.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and here's the reality. Conflict happens because you have people, right? And so this is a byproduct of having people in your church. And anytime you have people, more than one, eventually you're going to have conflict, right? And even if it's just you might have some conflict with yourself. So it's not fun, but it's reality. And in fact, conflict can even breed trust. Conflict can breed deeper relationships. It's not easy, but there are good things that can come out of conflict if you handle conflict the right way.
Absolutely. And I like that he points out too that there's a difference between disagreement and criticism. Somebody disagreeing with you is not inherently criticism. Now, disagreements can turn into consensus and momentum and so forth, but criticism is an emotional cul-de-sac, he calls, in which hateful people will trap you if you let them. And so if you're one of those tweeters out there, that'd be something to throw out there. Learn to discern the difference between disagreement and criticism. Now, number 2, I want to give you a flashback to July 31st, 2021, because I posted something that said, to the pastor who made countless visits, numerous counseling sessions, and to do their weddings, funerals, and preach to them faithfully week in and week out, only to have them ghost you and go elsewhere. Good job. Seriously, good job. It's one of the few tweets of mine that went just about viral.
Yeah.
And for
not necessarily in the good way, right?
No. Yeah. I also had some people that were hating on it. But anyway, this talks about abandonment. When somebody we've loved well leaves the church, the last thing we want to hear is, don't take this personally, but it still hurts. So talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, well, there's people leave churches for different reasons, right? So the church that we're currently attending in Lubbock, our children's minister is leaving, not because she's upset. Her husband, who is a professor at Texas Tech, got a phenomenal job at that Baptist school in Waco, and just couldn't turn it down. I mean, phenomenal job offer in Waco. And so they're leaving, not because they're hurt at the church, not because they're angry, because a life opportunity came up. Sometimes that happens, right? And while that kind of loss hurts, that hurts a lot less than when folks just leave, right? And maybe they tell you why they're leaving, most of the time they don't, right? You realize, man, these folks haven't been here in about a month, and maybe you try to contact them and either they ghost you, or when you contact them, they just unload on every way that you have disappointed them in the last 3 years. Yeah. You ever had that happen, Matt?
Nope, never.
I mean, you're a perfect pastor, so
I've never disappointed anybody or had anybody ghost or anything. Not at all. That one particular time when somebody that wasn't qualified for a particular something or other, and we didn't make them that particular something or other, and they disappeared and did all kinds of something and others on social media. It was wonderful. Anyway, we have to. He says we're being asked to disconnect our emotions from their departure.
Yeah.
That's possible. You really can't. We love these people. We care about them. And this is something he points out that you can't solve with a sermon. Don't get in there and start, just sniping them from the pulpit. That's not the way to do it. If your tear ducts ever dry up, he says it's time to find a new profession. We should be close enough to be able to be hurt by our people.
Yes. And you need someone to talk to about that. When you need somebody that you can, I don't know that unload is the right term, but that you can open up to. Yeah. I mean, when you've experienced that, when somebody just leaves the church and maybe they do so in a hurtful way, and they're carpet bombing you on social media on their way out, like, you need somebody that you can talk to about that. Because if not, those emotions will come out eventually. And you've got to you've got to be quick to forgive, but you've also got to process those emotions that you're dealing with.
Yep. Number trace, attendance. Roller coasters have age, weight, and height restrictions for a reason. The last one I rode with my son took us on twists and turns that not only made my head spin, but also made my back and neck hurt. Amen. But he said that was the day. I'm picturing this one, because he said before that ride, I had never experienced what it would be like to stop in midair, then shift to reverse at the same rate of speed. That was the day I retired from roller coasters. Anyway, church attendance is worse than that. Anyway, we've talked a lot about church attendance and my propensity, especially back in Mayhill, when I would look out the window, because I had that kind of corner office that was looking into the how often I would easily just open that window blind and see, oh man, today is going to be terrible. And so the fun thing for me is on Sundays when I look back at 10:45 and I'm like, ooh, this could be rough. And then I look back at 11, I'm like, oh, we're full. And I'm like, where'd everybody? Why are y'all so late? But anyway, church do have some growth and decline and all that kind of stuff, and up and down. But Kyle, do you have any other thoughts there?
Yeah. So I remember back before COVID hit, Tom Rainer released some data that said that the average church member, church attender was in church twice a month. And I think now that's probably dropped to somewhere between once and twice a month. Yeah. And here's what I did, because I was kind of a numbers nerd, and so I enjoyed tracking the attendance and seeing when it was high, when it was low, and over several years I finally came to a really solid conclusion, and that was there was no rhyme or reason as to why some Sundays were high, some Sundays were low, other than more folks were in town on a particular weekend than they were the next one. The only trend that I found consistent was after kind of one of the high attendance Sundays, either Easter or Christmas, the next Sunday would always be painfully low. Yeah. you just knew it, right? So I mean, it's
that's important. Why I went out of town.
yeah. It's important to track your attendance. It's important to know who you have that are a part of your church. But I actually found it more helpful to kind of keep an eye on a monthly reach. And so I went through our church rolls and I would say, okay, in any given month, who are the folks that we see? And even if our weekly attendance was 70, that there were probably 90 to 95 people that we actually saw in any month. Just help me to know who was actually a part of our church, who was involved, at least somewhat regularly. And then, yeah, you track, okay, we haven't seen these folks in a while. We really should check in on them and see what's going on. If you're experiencing a season of decline, you want to ask why, right? What are the reasons? Were there some job changes and people moved? Did we experience like a period of sickness in our church? Did we have some folks get mad and leave, right? Each of those will drive the decisions that you make. But, you don't want to be defined by numbers for sure. You can't define your ministry based solely on numbers, but it is important to track those to see, where you are, how you're growing, how you're declining, and what might be leading to that.
Yeah. All right, number cuatro, family. Speaking of four, we are four daughters, and this is never a pressure point for us, but if it is for you, thought we would share. That most children are going to experience a season of rebellion. You and your wife are going to have good days and bad days, but I like what he says. The Bible doesn't teach perfectionism, nor does God expect you and your wife and your kids to practice it. So make your home a grace zone instead of a guilt zone.
Yeah, that's good.
And so, hey, we do serve a profession, in the only profession on the planet that requires people to win both at work and at home. But that pressure should not lead you to perfectionism, as he talked about. Kyle?
Yeah, and I was blessed in all the churches I served when we had kids. I never felt like there was that extra pressure on. Well, I mean, when when I was pastoring, when I was serving churches actively with
serve
with our kids.
Churches actively.
Well, yes. When I was, even now I have a volunteer staff role. Okay, anyway, when I've never served a church that
served a church
that had these extra requirements on the pastors or the youth pastors' kids. I just haven't seen that. So thankfully we were protected from that. But I had friends in high school who lived with those expectations, and they were crushing. And I think in a lot of ways drove some pastors' kids away from the faith for a while. So listen, if you're listening to this and you're a pastor, your kids should not be held to a different standard than other kids. They're kids. They're gonna make dumb mistakes because they're kids. If you're a church member listening to this, don't put extra expectations on your pastor's kids that you don't put on any other kids. Okay. Let them be kids. And here's the thing, one of the things that I really appreciated, pastors' kids especially are always kind of known for, being a little wild in the church. Running through the church. And do you know why that's the case? Hopefully, because they're comfortable there, because it's like a second home, and so hopefully that shows that they have a love for that place and a love for the people there. Don't crush that spirit. Let them be kids, man. I'm so grateful. I mean, again, this where I am this week, First Baptist Church Kermit. Both our kids were born while we were here, and I just have some sweet memories of the way that folks loved on us. And loved on. Haley was 9 months old when we left, so she didn't have really any life here. But Noah was 2, and man, these folks loved on him as he was, a baby and then a toddler, and it was awesome. It was awesome. Do that. Love your pastor's family.
Love it. And number 5, speaking of what I only have 5 of, is dollars. Finances. Guidestone recently asked about 500 of its members under age 55 what their greatest wellness challenges were. And they listed financial, physical, and emotional wellness as their top pain points. We talked about that recently. But this is what they said about the financial stuff. Half, Mark reminds us, say that they put off thinking about financial matters because they do not feel knowledgeable in this area. Now, we are real good friends with Art Rayner, and strongly recommend his stuff, Money Matters. You can just search for that. And if I remember, I will put that in the show notes. We will have him on the show pretty soon, too, to talk about some new stuff coming out for him. But some just put it off because they think, I don't know enough about it. I'll figure it out later, whatever it might be. Well, then 3 and 4 ministers wish they had started saving sooner for retirement. And then the average age a minister opens a retirement account at Guidestone is 41.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
1 in 3 know how much money they will need in order to retire. And all I know, like I fit in like each of these, except I do have a retirement account. But I still wish that I had started saving sooner.
Yeah.
Have some stocks, but it was not really for the, with an eye towards retiring on it. So Walmart better do really well if that's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not knowledgeable in the area of finances when my only advice to anybody is go buy a Corvette. So
that's
Kyle,
right. Yeah.
what do you want to talk about finances?
Yeah. So again, I mean, the best time to start saving for retirement is about 10 years ago, but the second best time is today. Right. So if you can't go back 10 years and do it, start today.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was blessed again, this church that I'm at this week, where I was 23 and went to them and just said, hey, I would like to start putting a little bit in a retirement fund. I think we started with, it was either $100 or $200 a month. I mean, it was chump change for a long time. Yeah. But thankfully I did it before 41. That blew my mind when I read that the average age a minister opens a retirement account is at 41.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, for a lot of pastors, particularly in small churches, put whatever you can back, and trust the Lord to provide. I mean, he's good. And I mean, a lot of pastors, we don't really retire all that well, right? Preachers aren't known for that. You move maybe out of full-time ministry into a bivocational ministry. I think there's great value in that. Man, if this is something that you've not done, you need to get started with, reach out to Guidestone. They have some really good advisors who can do that. You mentioned Art Rayner, reach out to him, because even if you're getting started a little bit later in the game, there's still hope and really, really good options out there. Yeah. In fact, in this article, he points to Guidestone Pastors page that is a good resource as well. Really simple to help you get started. And then, hey, if you are going to Indianapolis, Guidestone is always there and happy to have a conversation with you and give you kind of a roadmap to help in some of the financial issues you might be facing. Yeah.
Well, as Mark said, pain points are inevitable. Pain in ministry is going to be inevitable, Pastor, but so is joy. There are some difficult days, but there's going to be some awesome days. In ministry is such a privilege. And so as he closes with Galatians 6:9, we close. Let us not get tired of doing good, for we will reap at the proper time if we don't give up. And so lead on, brothers, and we are rooting for you and here for you. You can connect with us online at @mhenslee, HENSLEE, or at Kyle Bierman, and that is BUEERMANN, and we would love to connect with you there. And so I am one of the few people that can spell that correctly.
That is correct. No, you didn't throw in 2 R's where there's only one. I applaud you for that.
You're welcome. I mean, if you want, I could just make it BBUUEE. Anyway. Well, have a great day, and may your coffee be as black as night and as bold as the gospel you declare.
What's wrong with you people?